Welcome to BullTV, where we are bullish on Collierville. I'm your host, David Pickler. BullTV is a monthly show that empowers, educates, and entertains while highlighting the citizens of Collierville who inspire and deliver solutions for a stronger community. BullTV is presented by Pickler Companies and is proudly produced by the students of Collierville High School. We invite you to watch our show at www.bulltv.show, thebullnetwork.com, and CHS-TV 19. New episodes air on the second Sunday of every month at 3 p.m. Central Time. On today's show, we sit down with John Atkin, Executive Director of the Association of Independent and Municipal School Districts, AIMS, a longtime public education advocate and a dear friend of mine. We're honored to have John on BullTV as we discuss his work as an educator and the impact he has made on our town. Join us for this inside look at how John spearheaded the creation of the new Collierville High School, what his leadership philosophy is, and why servant leadership is a vital part of driving any organization. Today I'm joined by John Atkin, Collierville resident and respected educational leader. John has worn many hats in public education, including teacher, principal, and superintendent. John retired from Shelby County Schools as superintendent in March of 2013, after serving in that capacity since 2009. Previously, he served as Shelby County Schools Assistant Superintendent of Student Services, Leadership, and Safety. In December of 2013, John was named superintendent of the newly formed Collierville Schools by unanimous vote of the Collierville School Board. John earned a BSc degree in math from Henderson State University in Arkadelphia, Arkansas, and received a master's degree in education and administration supervision from the University of Memphis. His career as an educator in Tennessee began in 1983 as an advanced math and geometry teacher at Collierville High School. After 9 years in the classroom, he entered the school administration as assistant principal at Houston High School and was named principal of Houston High in 1997. John currently serves as executive director of the Association of Independent and Municipal School Districts and attends Collierville United Methodist Church. John and his wife Jody are parents of 3 children, Bruce, Shay, and Hallie. He is a proud grandfather of Swayze and Truett. John, thank you for joining us on BullTV.
Thanks for having us.
Well, now, John, we're going to kind of get rolling with this. As we always do, we're going to start off with a real softball for you.
Okay.
So, in 3 words, who is John Atkin?
3 words.
3 words.
Tall, loud, obnoxious.
That works. No, we're gonna try another shot with that.
Okay. Tall's probably appropriate.
We can go for tall.
I think energetic, dedicated, some of the words that come to mind. You know me, I'm not going to throw a lot of them out there, but passionate about a lot of things would probably be another good adjective to describe me.
You know, you and I both know, having been in the arena, there's a lot of other words people have for us, both good and bad.
Yes, there are.
So, what is your favorite part of living and working here in Collierville?
Oh gosh, I mean, Cameron and I were talking before this interview. I moved to Collierville in 1983. 7,000 residents then, one elementary, one middle, one high school. But as we've grown in Collierville, now over 50,000, and I've watched the dynamic things that have happened. I think probably the thing that makes me most proud is they've been able to retain that small town feel with all of the things that happen at the square, all of the events, all of the civic organizations and service organizations that happen in the town that have been able to maintain that feel for it. Even though it's 50,000, it doesn't feel like it. And I tell visitors all the time, I tell families, if they've never been on the square at 2 different times, particularly during the summer for all the concert series, but boy, in the Christmas season and the holiday season, and the square is lighted. It's magical. So I really applaud the town leadership for being able to maintain that piece. But it's residents. I mean, you know, Collierville is a resident-driven community, and people want it to be good, and so they do whatever they can to make it happen.
Well, it is the people. I remember some of the first people I met in Collierville, people like Tom Brooks and Herman Wright Cox and Joe Clayton, and you know, and they, of course, they talked and they gave great credit to the schools for making Collierville what it really is. But even as we've seen a transition of new generations of leadership, you know, how these generations have continued to keep that same focus on those core values. I think it really makes Collierville great.
Yeah, and it's a great place to raise a family. I mean, that's what keeps this community going and this area going. And as you mentioned, obviously a lot of pride in the schools, and I know we're going to talk a lot about the schools later in the interview, but I can remember Mayor Herman Wright Cox putting that fist down on that table before and saying, you know, the only reason we exist in this community is because of the excellent schools, and that tradition has carried, and now the tradition continues with Wright, his son, as chairman of the Collierville School Board, and shows that same passion. So those legacies are important. The people you mentioned, my gosh, I mean, what legacies? Mr. Tom, you know, we bought all our prescription drugs there in his drugstore, so we've been around forever. Gosh, don't get me started on Mr. Joe. You know what a great man he was, and we lost an icon with him recently. But all the influence that he had on education in this area, and that's just 3. I mean, you know, they're numerous. So
John Green, some of the others.
Yeah, and John Green has worked with Collierville Education Foundation. That's still going, and with the mini grants, I've never seen teachers get so excited about $50 mini grants in my life. But every year you feed them and you give them mini grants, and it's the highlight of the school year. And it's you just have to applaud people like that who are willing to invest in the community.
It's great stuff. You know, I was questioning this. You know, I think people ought to know what it was that brought you from West Helena to here in Collierville, in the Memphis area. Now, obviously, many of us know about the legend of the Elvis tribute artist that really lies beneath your persona, but I'm guessing that maybe wasn't the primary reason that brought you here.
Not the primary. Her name is Jody. Jody and I were dating in West Helena, and she had accepted a job at the newborn center. Jody is my wife is a phenomenal nurse, and you can go around this community in Shelby County now and talk to people who she was their nurse, particularly if their baby was born and needed neonatal ICU care. She started out at the Regional Medical Center in the world's largest ICU at the time, neonatal ICU. So she had accepted a job up there. I had actually applied for a job in Shelby County Schools. I was teaching and coaching in West Helena. We were not married at that time. So we laughed. So I applied for a job at Bartlett and did not get it. Good friend of mine, Ken Demetrio, you remember Ken, who just recently retired. We teased each other about that since. He got, they needed a girls softball coach, and even though I volunteered to coach anything, that probably was a smart move on their part. So I accepted a job in Little Rock, Arkansas, at Joe T. Robinson High School, and we were going to keep the long distance relationship, and it was probably second week of June, I got a call to come interview at Shelby County Schools again, and another icon of education. Mary Elizabeth Barnett was the vice principal, the first year of vice principal model in Shelby County Schools. And so went down there and interviewed, and she said, I need you to go. They needed a math teacher, And would I coach? Well, as I used to tell any candidates when they interviewed for jobs, if they ask you, can you do anything extra, you say whatever you need me to. So I did and answered the question, whatever. So I needed freshman football, assistant basketball, and track coach. So she said, but I need you to go out and meet 2 people. And talking about icons. Jimmy Hayslip, who was the principal, and Paul Cox. So you've got 2 legends in this area, obviously, and so I came and had never been to Collierville. I was at the board office, which you and I are really familiar with, but honestly, I said, well, I'm good. I know the kids who are filming and helping with this interview, we did not have cell phones. We did not have GPS. We had an atlas. So I said, how do you get to Collierville from Midtown Memphis? So they said, go out of this parking lot and turn right, go over the viaduct, move 1 block over to Poplar and turn right and keep on going.
Keep going.
And I kept going and kept going and kept going. And so I met him where the district office is currently, and we met at the gym there, Jimmy Hayslip, and then Paul came over and I coached and then accepted the job. So Jody and I got married and we moved that summer. So 1983.
Wow.
So crazy to believe. Fun story. Coached freshman football, 0-6, scored 1 touchdown. Coached assistant basketball, 23-2. So they came to me after basketball and they said, you okay if we go look for another freshman football coach? I said, I completely understand. They hired Andy Clayton to be freshman football. So, yeah, it's a
that worked out
great,
okay.
Yeah, pretty good story. So, good friend of mine to this day. So, yeah.
That's great. You know, well, you talk about Jimmy Hayslip. First of all, what an amazing man. And when I first joined the school board, Jimmy was up there running PR and communications. And no one I've ever seen can introduce a speaker.
That's what I was about to say.
The way Jimmy Hayslip, I said that was my life's ambition to somehow be introduced by Jimmy Hayslip. But, you know, what a great and amazing man.
I was called Big Coach. That's what he called me to this, you know, till his last days. I was Big Coach. And, yeah, I never got the opportunity. Mike Tebby carried on the tradition fairly well. But
Mike did very well.
Jimmy Hayslip was the man.
He was something. Now, obviously, you and I have been great friends for many, many years and have both fought the battles for public education in our community. So tell me a little bit of how you got started in public education advocacy.
Well, probably even as a kid going to school, you know, in Helena, West Helena, Arkansas, got a great public education, but you and I both grew up in the time, you probably didn't get affected by it as much, but I grew up in a time of desegregation. So where schools that used to be separate were pulled together, and you know, it affected communities. And my parents took a stand that public education was where we were going to be. So it was ingrained in me, obviously, that the things that public education offers, this country needs.
Exactly.
And so the principles that our country is built on, we learned, you know, and we're taught that in public education. So obviously that had a great influence. I went to a public college, public university. You messed up a while ago when you said I went to Henderson State University. It's the Henderson State University, so we have to get that straight. But now got fortunate enough to play basketball and received a scholarship, and really had no, you know, it was just an opportunity for me to attend college, and would have gone, but it was a great opportunity that helped my parents out a lot. But so, you know, coming back, I actually taught for a couple of years in private school, and I could see the things in the back in West Helena, and that's where Jody and I met. So the best thing that happened out of that 2 years is I met Jody. So when the opportunity came, I've been involved in public education, obviously, officially since 1983, so in Tennessee. So that's the start. But gosh, I have to credit you and school board members and influential people in this community of being so passionate about the things that it has to offer. I know you remember because you don't forget anything, but gosh, one of the most touching and moving ceremonies I think I've ever attended is when we awarded the World War II graduates the diploma, and I got to sing the national anthem for that group. And man, you're talking about moving, but that kind of impressed on me. I don't know if I ever told you that's the thing that we can offer through public education. And you know, my kids all went to public schools. My grandkids are now in public school right down the street, and so I'm so proud of here and what happens in public schools here. And I was going to throw this in later, but I think it's a great time. Collierville Schools today named the #1 school district in Tennessee by the niche rankings. So that makes all of us proud of what we've done here. So and now my work. I know moving on down through the interview questions probably coming up, but my work now as executive director of AIMS with Tennessee School Board Association is really having to advocate probably more than I ever envisioned with things that are going on in Nashville now, and it's just not a Tennessee thing. It's a national trend now of things that we're having to fight for in public education. But I don't know that our country can survive without a strong public education system.
Well, could not possibly agree more. And that you talk about that the World War II graduation ceremony we had at the old Rock and Soul Museum.
Rock and Soul.
And a lot of people may not know that they may know you as the Elvis tribute artist. And they know the beautiful singing voice that you have shared for so many times. They may not know that you actually shared the stage that day with the Right Reverend Al Green.
Right Reverend Al Green, sure did.
And for those of us who are there, we think that maybe you did a better job.
I don't know. I appreciate that.
Well, that's fantastic. So you've talked about this a little bit already. You've obviously had an incredible career with our town school system. Talk to us a little bit about the journey that you went through from Shelby County School Superintendent to Collierville Superintendent, now to the role that you have with AIMS.
Sure. Obviously, I teach or facilitate a class of administrators across the state of Tennessee through the School Board Association of people who think they want to be a superintendent of schools. So my job is to get all the information in front of them through a whole year's program. But we had our first session this weekend, and I can remember it just so timely for this interview that Barry Olhausen and Dale Lynch, who work with the Tennessee Organization of School Superintendents, were talking to this group, and it was all about opportunity and how they sometimes just present themselves, but then you look back years later and say, maybe they didn't present themselves, maybe. There's a destiny thing involved here too, or knowing people and people who put me in the right spots and help me succeed. But obviously, Houston High principal rivalry here sitting at Collierville High. I get teased a lot about that, but spent 16 years there. But great experience, and they dragged me kicking and screaming from that particular job.
Yes, we did, didn't we?
Yes, you did. That's why I say we probably can't tell all the stories here, but I was the current superintendent at the time, Dr. Webb, came and talked to me, and I told him no for about 9 months, and then he started working on Jody, so he knew my weak spot there, and then Jody, we finally talked and did all the things, the pluses and minuses. So looking back now, you see how kind of things start falling in place. But when I moved to central office, assistant superintendent of leadership, safety, and student services, and then Mara left as student services. So I had to go take that on full time. Then Dr. Webb had to go on medical leave. So acting superintendent for a few months till he came back, and then obviously was appointed superintendent to Shelby County Schools. At that time, 51 schools, I believe, a little over 50,000 students. So probably the 14th or 15th somewhere, the fourth largest in the state of Tennessee, but one of the larger school districts in the country.
And don't forget, the only large school system that was the top 100 in largest in size and the top 100 in best in quality as well. That's
right. Well, yeah, we had great times there till our world got rocked a little bit. But
a little bit.
Yeah. So, I told the group this past weekend. By the time I figured out where my office was as superintendent, we got some things going, and then began this push. I feel like maybe some anti-public education push began pretty quickly in there, but the next year they had a special session and we were awarded $500 million in Race to the Top money in the state of Tennessee. So the second year of my tenure in Shelby County Schools was, planning. We got a large sum of money to facilitate those particular programs that, changing teacher evaluation system, introduction of a lot of charter schools, a lot of accountability model changed, how you evaluated teachers and administrators. So a lot of planning to do with our staff then, and had some great people on staff. My gosh, we had a great team. And then in December 20th of 2010 is when Memphis City Schools surrendered their charter. So the remainder of my tenure at Shelby County Schools, we know where we've spent a lot of time in federal court. And then as that rocked along, and a lot of time at state legislature, where I'm currently going a lot right now. So once all of that kind of shook out and everything, I did retire back in March. Golly, that's been 9 years ago now. And then consulted with several of the school districts as legislation moved and court moved and all the things that happened. Consulted with 4 of the now 6 municipal districts and forming their own school district, and then chose Collierville, obviously, to become superintendent, and started that January 1st, 2014. Wow. So things moved very quickly after that. January 1st, 6 superintendents of the 6 municipal districts. We met about 3 times a week all over the place. I can never thank James Llewellyn and Mayor Joyner, their staff, enough for a lot of things that they did, but we didn't have an office. They gave me every closet in town hall back in those days. They'd laugh. I had a cell phone in each hand walking through, but just a quick turnaround. And I don't know, probably one of the, proud of a lot of things, but the fact that, those guys and gals that were fellow superintendents at the time, man, what a spirit of cooperation, because it would not have happened if we hadn't done that, and we're able to put some models together to share some services. And we opened school, and there was nobody that screamed louder in joy than we all did when the buses ran the first day. Rough those first few days, but they ran, and we had cafeteria, and we made payroll the first time. So it were all those little milestones you look back on and think, man, how did we do all of that? But it was hardworking people, and had a lot of help from our municipalities.
Well, and I will tell you that spirit of cooperation continues today.
Yes.
With the 6 districts working together, and what an amazing thing for the community.
Right.
To finally, to maintain that autonomy.
Yep.
And that educational direction. That's one of the reasons why we continue to see the kind of growth in Collierville and all the 6 suburban communities.
Sure.
So that's been great. Wow. All right. Well, I know you probably want to shy away from this question, because you never want to take the credit for the things that you've done, but we wouldn't be recording in this amazing state-of-the-art studio in this groundbreaking high school if it wasn't for you. And will you discuss a little bit the process of planning and the development of what became and what is the largest high school in the state of Tennessee, and I believe also the largest in the southeastern part of the United States?
Yeah. Well, it was. You look back on it now, and it wouldn't have happened without, again, mayor, school board, James Llewellyn, all of the aldermen.
By the way, the reigning person of the year.
Reigning person of the year, man, I really admire. But the cooperation had to be there first, but we had to do our homework first. I mean, obviously, when we became a school district at the then Collierville High School at Frankenby, we quickly had to do a quick feasibility study on whether it was, more efficient, a better use of our taxpayer dollars, whether to add on to that and build another middle school, or break ground and build a high school. We had athletic facilities that were separate from that particular building, parking, limited expansion capabilities. So we embarked upon a feasibility study through Fleming Incorporated, great firm, Scott and his group, who had done a lot of work for us at Shelby County Schools. And obviously the feasibility study determined that it would be a better idea to build, both financially and logistically, and just a lot of reasons. So then it became a matter of going to the mayor and the town administrator and the board of mayor and aldermen, saying, well, here's the feasibility study, guys and gals. I need $100 million. And then the gulps from them or whatever. But we had to really do some talks. There was never a time when they went, absolutely not. No, there was always a time was, show us, let's walk through this, what all it would take. James and Mayor Joyner had a staff then. Jane Bevel was the finance person, and my gosh, she just worked 24/7 to help. You had to sell bonds, you had to get all your valuation, make sure you could maintain your bond rating. But then we embarked, once we had our groundwork laid of obtaining financing, then we had to embark upon where will it be. And so we kind of use a lot of people. Kevin Vaughn was on our board then, and he's a well-known engineer, developer in this town, and he has the connections with where the land is. So we use Kevin and town staff, Jamie Gross at that, who was town planner. We had Nedra working for the school districts, Nedra Jones, and we looked for 10 sites inside this area that had 100 acres or more, because we were landlocked at the then high school. So we again put a rubric out there, did a feasibility study on those sites, and here we are now, landed on this site for a lot of reasons. You've got 385 coming around, then 269 was coming in at that time, but you had the land here, and Mr. Bob Cartwright had this land. It was a tree farm. You still see some of them out front and to the side, but we weren't planning it. At one time we were probably thought we were going to get about 120, 125 of these acres, but in speaking to Mr. Cartwright, it landed on 156 acres of where we sit right now. So a little bit larger tract of land than we envisioned, but obviously, if you look at it now, it was needed. So it leaves some room for expansion, some room for more parking lots. And then the fun began of design. We, again, had worked with the board, and they helped us select a joint venture architectural firm with Fleming and Renaissance. Sal Faraci was the leader. And you put two huge architectural firms, and then we did all of our requests for questions and proposals, and we chose a joint venture, Flintco and Linkus, two huge general contractors. And I look back now and I thought, how did they work together so well? I mean, they delegated, they separated duties, they decided who was going to handle interior athletics, that type of thing. And if somebody were building a school right now in this area, I would tell them right now, any of those firms go jump on, because they were very professional. And you would think with the bond ended up about $94 million that we had to finance the school. And we got some breaks. We got some federal money at the time that allowed us to do some things, the culinary program, the welding program we were able to do. We got sponsorships to finish and do some things as well. But it was amazing to watch the cooperation among so many people involved in this massive project. It was, I was telling them before the interview today, I think we broke ground in May of 2016 and opened in August of 18.
That's crazy.
So, it was a huge project. It would have never happened without the joint venture, because you had a lot of people that were pulling different, areas together for that. But, and there were some things left unfinished that have been finished since we opened and since I left, which one of them is here, this nice place. So it was a labor of love, but probably the most proud thing I am is that I had to sell it. I mean, I did. I had to get up in front of people who did not want to spend the money, first of all. And that's a hard pill to swallow. Sure. My property taxes are fixing to go up. My mother was one of them. But you had to sell it that look at what it's going to do for the community, and it has happened. You drive down 385 now, and you look over here and you go, my gosh. I bring superintendents and people to this building all the time, and they go, they're people from all over the state of Tennessee walk in and say, well, job well done. And, and my man, Mike Simpson, I know he and I both retired, but, he was right there lockstep in every meeting. And so we are proud of this particular place.
Well, you ought to be. And I know there are an awful lot of superintendents across this community and across the state that are somewhat jealous about what you have here, including our friends next door in Germantown. But no, this, and I know that you would feel this way, that building this building is incredible, but it's the people.
Sure.
And the things that happen and what it enables the students who come through and to fulfill their dreams and accomplish, and build their potential. It's just an incredible opportunity.
Yeah, I think probably you have proud moments after it's built. Obviously, the first day of school, and they did a big program for the freshmen, and they're walking in going, wow, and the parents are going, wow. But the first play, they did Mary Poppins that spring, and we built a theater that they could fly Mary and Bert up and down, and my eyes are about that big, but they accomplished it. I didn't tell Mike Simpson that was going on, by the way, until after the fact. But and then obviously the football and the athletic complex. When you go to a football game and the whole community's there on a Friday night, or you go to the first regional basketball tournament held in the gym. James Wiseman, who's now with the Golden State Warriors, was playing in that gym the first spring, and it was packed. And you think, wow, that's pretty cool. And then we had the women's NIT in there this past spring, and you've got I've known Kermit Davis, who's the men's coach at Ole Miss for who played at junior college there in Phillips at Helena, and Larry Brown was in here this past season looking at some players, and they kind of walk in and go, is this like a Division I school or whatever? Those are the things that make you proud. But it's you go back, and we've talked athletics, we've talked arts, but right here, TV studio, theater, band room, culinary, a lot of the programs that we put in, welding, auto mechanics, the partnerships that we have that particular place, the STEM-nasium, as we called it when we were designing, the opportunities that kids have because of this building and because of the commitment. I tell people and I told kids that when I was walking through the building, guys, you need to thank your parents and your grandparents, because their commitment financially made this building possible. And of course, then I'd throw in the superintendent's hat. Now take care of it because of their commitment. So, it will last a long time, and that makes us all proud.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us for this episode with John Atkin. We had intended to spend 30 minutes talking with John about his amazing career and the things that he has done in education for the town of Collierville. But there was so much incredible content that we want to ensure that you got to see all of it. So what we're going to do is we're going to end this episode now and invite you to come back next month as we watch part 2 of our conversation with John Atkin. And I promise you, you do not want to miss the things we have to say next month as we continue to talk about the amazing life and the incredible impact that John Atkin has had on public education and on the town of Collierville. See you next time.